Of all enemies of public liberty, war is perhaps the most to be dreaded. No nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. James Madison. In recent times, America seems to have become enamored with war. This cultural shift of American militarism is woven into our very government and economy, pushed by corporations through various lobbyists. The relationship between the defense industry and our politicians is unacceptable. Our government is intended to be elected by the people and for the people. But just whom do these politicians serve except for the Goliath conglomerates themselves when they vote to humbly place more money into their already overflowing war chests?
Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
It seems that as a nation, we have ignored Eisenhower's warning.
Just one American division.
Who attacked our country?
More than 400 helicopters of it.
The evidence we have gathered.
Just what is the military-industrial complex? This is Bob Stevens.
Hello, Bob Stevens. Congratulations on becoming the Secretary of Defense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. After a lengthy career, he has just become the Secretary of Defense.
The military-industrial complex is an interesting old-fashioned term which dates back to Dwight Eisenhower's presidency. He was, of course, a famous general and well familiar with military suppliers.
The military-industrial complex refers to the iron triangle of connections between Congress, defense corporations, and the Pentagon, all the important players in charge of our nation's defense. Lobbyists can raise funds for politicians. Those politicians can pass friendly legislation that favors them and the Pentagon. And the Pentagon can contract these defense companies. And so defense spending rises and rises. Our defense spending has gone unchecked. We spend more money than the next 9 countries combined. And unwarranted influence in our government is at its peak. How did we get here? Lobbying is not evil in nature. It is an extension of the First Amendment, an act of free speech. But what is lobbying?
And the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded.
Much of that money is going to defense contractors who pour billions of dollars into lobbying every year.
Have you ever signed a petition, reached out to a local politician you have lobbied?
You know, with lobbying, whether it's on defense industry issues or any number of other, we have lots of lobbyists in the state capitol too, probably a couple thousand at least for AT&T or Charter or a whole host of companies and industries. People have the right to speak out and petition their government, and that's essentially what lobbying is. So, you know, what I've found is that lobbyists are a useful and important part of the process. Good lobbyists will present factual, good, reliable information. Now, as a policymaker, I have to understand that if you're a lobbyist, you're going to present me information that puts XYZ company in the best possible light. And I have to say, okay, well, what's the other side of the story? It's become a profession, and obviously there's a lot of money involved in it. Lobbyists get paid a lot of money. Some of them do, not all of them, but a lot of them do. A lot of them also contribute a lot of money to candidates for public office.
But the problem I want to address here is not this, but rather corporate scale lobbying. It can quickly become corrupt once money gets involved, because the group with the highest amount of money, corporations, begin to drown out all other voices. In this sense, politicians become merchants, selling to lobbyists willing to buy.
A corporation or other, special interest has a lot of money that they spend, whether that's on lobbying directly or on campaign contribution. They can have an outsized impact, and there's no doubt about that.
The Secretary of Defense oversees the Defense Department and acts as the chief defense policymaker. He also advises the president.
First of all, putting one single commander in charge of the entire modernization effort.
But Bob Stevens also lobbied for Big Missiles Inc. only a few years ago. And Mark Esper, the former Secretary of Defense, also lobbied for Raytheon Technologies. The intentions of these individuals who used to lobby for a special interest group is anyone's guess.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
Since the U.S. and NATO allies have The most sophisticated and the most advanced weapons, and the most of them. Presumably others are deterred from making strategic gambles.
Now, this is the theory of deterrence. You don't want to hit me, because I'll hit you back even harder. If you don't believe me, I'll prove it. We should do away with war profiteers that obstruct democracy, but be able to deter nationalist threats with our arms. It is imperative that we stand against this, because the problem is so much bigger than just defense. There are so many bigger foxes guarding bigger hen houses, like the healthcare lobby, the housing lobby, the junk food lobby, and so many more. Become a knowledgeable citizenry. Research, read, scrutinize, work towards passing anti-corruption laws like banning fundraising and donations and lobbying, bans on lobbyists entering office and vice versa. We must do more than just vote. Reach out to your senators, your representatives, lobby for our future. This is the best way to heed Ike's warning. The cat lobby.